joining us today on Desertwood Days. I am your host, Kathy Blaze, and today I am here with Mr. David Van Wie.
Kathy, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you also. So, David, you are a filmmaker here in the Valley.
I am. Yeah, we do documentaries, and we do some commercials as well. And we're now getting into the YouTube station, YouTube channel.
Oh,
We've just started a YouTube channel as well.
okay. So, is this your production company?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I was on a board for Big Brothers Big Sisters quite a while ago, and they were doing a commercial.
okay.
And I was watching this commercial they did, and I just thought it was horrible. And I had this idea of my own commercial, what I thought might be good for them. And I talked to the CEO there, and I said, I really think we should do something a little more gripping, get a little more attention. And I have an idea. And he said, oh, okay. It's kind of like yeah, sure, okay, good luck. And I went out and I hired a crew and I shot it, and showed it to him a little bit later, and he said, "Can you do 5 more?" And that's kind of how it started. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how long have you been here in the Valley?
Boy, I've been here since '84,
Okay.
so quite a while.
Where
Yeah.
are you from, if you don't mind me asking?
Detroit, originally Detroit. That's
Oh,
where a lot of our documentaries are shot out of. Is
okay.
Detroit, and so I get to go back quite a bit. It's not the funnest city to go back to, but the surrounding area is very nice. But this actually, the city's coming back a little bit now. It's starting to get.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's starting to come back, and there's people there now, and it's starting to get built out, and they're cleaning it up, so it's getting there.
That's good to hear. Has anyone ever told you you look like Richard Gere?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that
Look, I got
before.
to look into these Richard Gere eyes all this segment.
Yeah, yeah, he just was able to slide in and get all those spots that I missed. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Well, welcome to Desertwood Days.
Thank you.
You started with your project. Before you started, was there um, filmmakers that you that inspired you to want to get into this industry?
Yeah, I have no background, none.
Okay.
I have no background in it at all. I just on a whim decided to do a commercial, and from there it kind of sparked the interest. And when I was a kid, we had the little Super 8
Yeah,
stuff, and we
yeah.
do films like that. But once I got involved with it and was doing it, I just fell in love with it. And if there was an influencer for me, I would definitely say it's a gentleman named Christopher Park, and
Okay.
he's no longer with us, but he made movie trailers, and uh, he's kind of a family friend, and we heard that he got an internship with National Geographic when he was young, and he was seeing how they were editing and seeing all this footage, and he just started editing and creating movie trailers,
Mm.
and what was interesting is he started his trailer company, and it's my understanding in submitting trailers, you all these different companies will submit, and then they
Okay.
pick the best one, and then that's who gets paid.
Oh,
And
okay.
so these producers would sit down and they'd watch these trailers and they go, okay, that's School from New York, that's he's from LA, because they have
See,
this pattern.
yeah, they start to recognize their
And
pattern.
he didn't have that
Oh,
because he just trained himself, kind of like, I just jumped in and did it myself.
uh-huh.
And it was so, captivating, and his trailers were so good. He's done Interstellar. He did his last trailer was The Last Jedi.
Hmm.
Um, I went to his studio and visited him when he was doing Pete's Dragon and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh.
And he is just an amazing talent. He was an amazing talent. And they became known as Park Trailers.
Hmm.
And he did all the Pirates of the Caribbean and all of those. And they're just, I mean, you look at those trailers,
That's an amazing
and
influencer.
he was an amazing man, and just had this natural gift. He did Suicide Squad, the first one,
Uh-huh.
and if you watch Suicide Squad, you see that the score behind it is Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. You think, how are these two things coming together, right? and it worked beautifully. And I watched his trailers, and I was, spending some time with him in his studio, and
You
he's
know
such an
what? You
amazing
never
guy.
know what some. I mean, just because someone is in a specific genre of work, you never know what they're totally passionate about. So it may be something like, "Hey, I want to work with David on that," and I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. You just never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you never know. And so I really look to a lot of what he did as an influence,
Hmm.
and as a, that drive to be new and creative. And
So do you feel like you're different and have your own authentic look to your work?
I'd like to think so. And it's documentaries, and so it's a little different than filmmaking. Story is everything. And
Hmm.
so my goal is to make sure that I tell the story in an engaging way, but also be fair. Our films are fairly controversial because they surround these police units. Our
Hmm.
first one was called Detroit Under Stress. So Stress was a Detroit police unit back in 1971 that was put in place when crime was through the roof,
Hmm.
with numbers we've never seen before. Even though some people think crime is bad now,
Hmm.
in Detroit in 1971, let's see, you had about 90 robberies a day,
Hmm.
and you had 3 people getting shot and killed every day. That
Hmm.
doesn't include the ones that were shot that lived.
Hmm.
So they put this decoy unit on the street, and by the end of the first year of operating, Detroit becomes the #1 city for not only police shooting fatalities, but also where police officers are being killed.
Hmm.
And this unit, Stress, Stop the Robberies, Enjoy Safe Streets was the
Hmm.
acronym, um, was, they had 27 fatal shootings total. And they've never told their story,
Hmm.
never been interviewed. And if you go out and you Wikipedia and you do all that other stuff, it has a lot of misinformation out there. And so we had to, we were able to interview these officers, which was uh, amazing in itself that they were,
Hmm.
you know, going to tell their story.
Right.
But then we had to show the other side. We had to show the community side. And so your job, big circle back, the job is to make sure that you're telling both sides and being
Right.
fair in the story.
Sure.
Um, and so it's a little different than filmmaking.
And I like that because a lot of times we're only seeing one side of the story or what
Yeah.
we're watching on the media, which is probably somewhere in between or who.
Right.
So it is. I love that you're showcasing both sides of the story. I mean, and after that, people can't feel like, hey, we're misinformed. only hearing the police side, and what about the community? Or
Right.
so I love that. Do you guys go back? I mean, we're talking about this squad. I mean, and talking about the change that occurred due to that. Do you guys go back and do another story talking about the change that occurred?
So our follow up to that was our second documentary, which was a shooting in 1969. It was a police unit and the Republic of New Africa, which was a militant black group back in the day, that trickled down out of Robert Williams. And it's the story of, again, controversial shooting. You had two police officers. They have 20 minutes left on their shift. It's 20 minutes to midnight. And they drive by this church. It was called the New Bethel Church,
Mm-hmm.
which was Aretha Franklin's father's church.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy standing out there with a rifle.
Wow.
So they figured, well, we've got to stop. So they stopped the car. Richard Warbeck and Michael Chofsky are the police officers. And Michael Chofsky gets out. He starts to head towards this guy with the rifle. And the guy just levels his rifle and shoots him right in the stomach.
Oh.
He goes down. Richard Warbeck gets out of the car. As he's getting out of the car, they walk up to this man with the rifle, walks up to the officer who's down and shoots him 7 times in the back. Richard Warbeck doesn't even get around the car. He gets shot in the leg. He goes down, crawls back to his car. As he gets to the car, another person comes around the back side of the car, starts shooting behind through the window. He gets shot in the back. puts one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the gas pedal, and drags himself about a block away. He lives.
Mm.
And Scout 10-5 is Richard Warbeck telling what happened. So it's first person, which is really important in documentaries. And so all the stress officers were the stress officers. You know, we get bits and pieces from people who were in the media that day and people who were around, you know, and influencers in the community and so forth. But it has to come from first person, from both sides. And then you use your media as the middle ground.
Right.
The media, you know, depends on what you're pulling from, right? What newspaper or what video. So you use that as your middle ground, and then you kind of, you hope that it leaves everybody to make up their own mind.
Right.
Was stress a good unit? Was it a bad unit? And, you know, a lot of that's very gray too, especially with police work. And then the same thing with Scout 10-5. It's just it's a tragedy all the way around, really.
Right.
And so, yeah, we love preserving this history and sharing these stories, and hope that we can learn from them.
Sure, of course. So, David, you were talking about the productions that you currently you've worked on in Detroit, and you're here in Arizona. So, what has been one of the last projects that you've worked on here in Arizona?
So recently, we've gotten involved with our own YouTube channel called Patriot Plates, and Patriot Plates is a show where we drive around a city and we look for veteran license plates.
Oh, okay.
And then we try and pull that car over and ask that veteran to share one story of their time in service. And it's been just fascinating. And we just shot on the USS Midway in San Diego and interviewed 2 World War II veterans and 2 Vietnam veterans. And again, preserving history. You know, all these veterans have had such an amazing story, and it's surprising that, you know, you pull these guys over, and you know they're just out and about doing their thing,
and I'm sure eager to talk.
Not all of them,
no.
Surprisingly, not all of them. There's been several who've just declined and said, "John, I really don't feel comfortable. You know, they don't want to share, and that's okay."
And you know what? They're probably uncomfortable. They don't know where it's going or what you're going to do with the information. And
well, we have some up so they can see what we're doing, and it's been we've got covered on Fox and Friends and a lot of the local media as well. But I think a lot of it is reliving it, and it's very hard for them. And you know, especially our first 2 episodes, they're 2 Purple Heart recipients, and they talk about, you know, what happened. And I brought my daughter in now. She's 17 and she's a producer on the show. And
so do you guys collaborate with other agencies that's doing stuff with veterans?
So our host is Scott Husing, who wrote Echo and Ramadi, and he was a commander during the surge in Iraq, in Ramadi. And he has a nonprofit called Save the Brave. And so yeah, we work with them and help promote them. And an amazing talent, amazing man, amazing leader, and we're very privileged to have him on the show.
Are you guys a nonprofit?
We're not. No.
Oh, okay.
So no, we're not a nonprofit. We're just a regular production company. You know, out there to make money when we can.
Sure.
But our take's a little different. Again, it's just about preserving this history and sharing these stories. And it really has been an honor to not only preserve the history of these police officers in the unit, good and bad, but also these veterans. It's been just amazing. We recently, one of our last episodes out, was a World War II veteran who was on the Manhattan Project. So he was there in the Marshall Islands when they were exploding 2 atom bombs and testing them to find out what do these things do. And what's interesting when you listen to his story, you forget that they didn't really know what was going to happen.
Right.
When they, you know, they had, you know, Nagasaki and Hiroshima had already been, those bombs had already been, those bombs had already gone off. But they were still experimenting, trying to figure out what's the real fallout from this. And so that his piece takes us through all that, and being there, and we got footage from the test site there, so you can see the ships they had out and what was done. And
Right.
it's just amazing.
So how do you guys decide on what stories you're going to tell?
So we do pre-interviews and find out, what they want to talk about. But um, typically, if we pull a veteran over and they want to share a story, we're on. We're not
Mm.
gonna, everybody every
So this is
veteran's got a
pretty much
piece.
random if you're driving up the street and you see a veteran, because I mean most of them have I'm a veteran on a car or whatever. So
It's all
you okay.
it's all
So how
random.
do you, so since it's all random, do you I don't know promote or go to places where you think veterans are going to hang out? I mean, because you're probably missing a lot of people. That's what I'm trying to get at. So how do you find that population that you may not see or may not have a sticker on their car or?
So there are some target-rich environments, which is the VA hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Driving around there, you'll catch a lot of
Okay.
veteran plates there,
Okay.
and surprisingly enough, Costco. Believe it or not, Costco has a
Costco is the
ton of
place,
vets
huh?
shopping there all the time. We go up and down the rows, and we wait for that veteran plate to pop up, and that's actually our first episode with that Purple Heart veteran. We were driving out, and I see in the gas line a veteran plate, and it's got a Purple Heart on it.
Okay.
And I walked up and asked him. I said, here we're doing a show, and thanked him for his service, and said, would you be interested in talking to us?
Are you a veteran yourself?
I'm not. No,
Oh,
I'm not a veteran.
okay. So what inspired that for you?
You know, I was in officer candidate school for the Marines.
Okay.
I had trained here for a year. I got selected. I did all the testing. I was supposed to fly helicopters,
Oh,
and I went to officer candidate school. I had a week left. I had a really bad accident, and some Navy guys pretty much saved my life. And so, and I have a long line of history in our family. Our
right.
family's been here since 1664, so
Oh,
I have relatives from the American Revolution on. So
oh,
we're a big vet family. And my daughter, who's a producer on the show, we think we're very close now to her getting the nomination for the Naval Academy.
oh,
So yeah,
congratulations.
so we're very excited for her.
Congratulations in advance. So what's next for you, David?
Continuing with our veteran stories, we're just thrilled to be doing that show, and it's been very well received. It's on YouTube. Just type in Patriot Plates, and then we're in pre-production on our third documentary, which is about the Malice Green. It's the Malice Green story out of Detroit, which is it's kind of like the precursor to George Floyd. It's that same flavor. So again, very controversial in a lot of instances with our other films too. Kind of hard to watch.
Right.
But again, it's preserving that history, and so we're working with the officers that were involved in that that went to prison and their families. I should say their families because he passed away, but and so we're gonna capture that story as well, so we have a record.
So, so with something that as big as the George Floyd case, are you also you're saying you also speak with his side, also his family or whoever his representatives or?
So our first course of action, we typically work things is we're working with the officer's family right now, and they have a closet full of documents and video, and so we go through all that, and then once I kind of frame out our story and their side, then I go to the other side. So the woman who was the prosecutor for the Malice Green trial, she is still a prosecutor in Detroit, and so we'll reach out to her then to see if we can get their side of the story. And it's hard when you do a documentary because you just kind of go down this path, and then it leads to other people. They'll say, oh, you should really talk to this person, you should talk to that person. So that's initially how it works, but you've got to get your main story down about what are the questions you're going to be asking. And
is this an easy task for you? I mean, are they willing candidates to want to speak with you?
Most of them, some aren't, some won't. there were some stress officers that wouldn't talk to me even after we had talked to kind of the main decoy crew guys that were the most controversial. There are some stress officers that do not like me because of the film. And then there's plenty on the other side that don't like me.
I'm sure.
But we let everybody say their piece. And if you don't like that, that's okay. But that's their opinion or their side or their view when they were there. And then
I've always had this question, since we're speaking about veterans. I have always thought that we do a poor job of taking care of the veterans' resting place, especially here in Arizona. Has that topic ever came up?
it has, and I can't say that it has. You're talking about the funeral sites and so forth.
Yes, the burial sites.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do a bad job of taking care of in certain areas. I mean, if it's in a so-called poor neighborhood or downtown Phoenix area, they don't do that great of a job of taking care of.
Well, there's a lot of problems in the veteran community. That certainly would be one of them. I would say, getting the VAs and the healthcare for our veterans. Our veterans should be getting the care that our congressmen get.
Of course.
Congressmen are very quick to make sure that they have the best health care and then are not providing that for our vets. That's a problem.
That is a problem.
Making sure that our vets are
Considering
taken
a lot
care
of them, they're not even veterans.
Correct.
I mean, it's just like, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with you on that. So, where can our audience find you?
So if you can type in our production company, fathendrickproductions.com. You can type in our films, which are DetroitUnderStress.com, Scout105.com, and then on Patriot Plates, they can just go to YouTube /Patriot Plates, and they can see our episodes there.
Okay, you could probably always drive around Desert with Days and find a few veterans here also.
We might do that too. We're going to put it on the list.
It was such a pleasure having you here today.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us today here at Desert with Days, and we will catch you next time.